after we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mr. Chambers, would you like to conduct the oath of office for our newly elected officials?
And we'd like to invite family members down at this time as well.
Okay, if three of you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. Okay. I state your name. I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as board member of the Board of Education of Medina City School District, Medina County, Ohio.
And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as board member of the Board of Education of Medina City School District, Medina County, Ohio.
To the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted.
To the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted.
During my continuance in said office and until my successor is elected and qualified.
During my continuance in said office and until my successor is elected and qualified.
Congratulations to you all. I won't shake your hands, but
Okay.
not to
Once again, congratulations to the newly appointed board members. It's going to be an exciting year. And now with that, we have a roll call.
Mr. Eastwood.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Ms. Pavlik.
Here.
Mr. Ross. Here. Mr. Skidmore.
Here.
Next item on this agenda is item D, the election of the president. And I would like to nominate Rebecca Parkhurst for that position.
Second.
Is there any conversation? I would like to say that I think she's going to be a fantastic president, and I really appreciate her service this last year. Look forward to 2018. David.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Abstain.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
And Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Rebecca Parkhurst,
I, Rebecca Parkhurst,
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as President of the Board of Education of Medina City School District, Medina County, Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as President of the Board of Education of Medina City School District, Medina County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws in effect and hereinafter to be enacted.
to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted.
During my continuance in said office and until my successor is elected and qualified.
During my continuance in said office and until my successor is elected and qualified. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I would like to nominate Mr. Ronald Ross to the position of Vice President of the Board.
I would like to second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none?
Ms. Parkhurst,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Mr. Ross,
Abstain.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Ross, if you will.
Okay, wait, let me. Okay.
I, Ronald Ross,
I, Ronald Ross,
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as Vice President of the Board of Education of Medina City School District, Medina County, Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as Vice President of the Board of Education of Medina City School District, Medina County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws in effect and hereinafter to be enacted.
to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted.
During my continuance in said office and until my successor is elected and qualified.
During my continuance in said office and until my successor is elected and qualified.
Congratulations.
Thanks, David.
Mr. Eastwood, as past president, would you have any comments you'd like to share?
Thank you. I have a couple. 2017 was a interesting year, and I made a few notes I wanted to share. It was for me, it was a year of commitment being worked out. There's been the catchphrase, very meaningfully so, every student, every day. And on the board, we have a task, and everything ties to that. At the end of the day, everything we try to do revolves around every student every day. Takes different shapes, different dynamics. Some things are more engaging and fun. Some things are more challenging. But this year, we didn't have what I would say was a lot of hype or a lot of drama, but I kind of like that. I like the fact that I felt like it was a year of commitment being worked out. We had some employment agreements that took place earlier in the year, showed signs of a district working together, which I was extremely thankful for. Observing new superintendent, working to engage our district. his coordinating of efforts, establishing leadership efforts that involve multiple levels of stakeholders within the district, setting accountability standards so that helping the staff reach those goals. Those are things we get to see, and we get to see them develop, and it's not an easy task when you have so many buildings and so many people. But I'm very, very pleased with what Aaron's been doing that and his team. And he would be the first to say it's about a team. Things are encouraging. My observation of the board members taking their jobs seriously, challenging one another at times, but with a positive outcome. Even when we don't agree on everything. But it's good. It's good conversation, and we need to have that challenge with one another to get to the right end. So that's all a good thing. As far as rewarding closing ceremonies last year, touching testimonies, so many good people in the district, so many staff of all different levels, our support staff, our teaching staff, our administration, that gets spotlighted at that ceremony in an unbelievably profound way. Talking to alumni, as far as rewarding, hearing where Medina City Schools equip them to do their additional education. People in architecture down in Cincinnati, in medical stuff at Ashland. Medina City Schools is doing a good job, and we want to help that to continue and to get better. Seeing the efforts and commitment going to putting Medina students and Medina District in a position for a great education and a valuable high school experience beyond the classroom. Handing my daughter her diploma. That was good stuff. And just to close out, the fact that I am a very firm believer that Becky is going to pick up and do a fantastic job as president. And I'm excited for 2018. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eastwood. I have a few words. I'll try to keep it brief. It is truly an honor and a privilege to serve on the Medina City School Board. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the community for electing me this past fall, and to everyone who inspired and promoted me during the election. I especially want to thank and recognize my family, John, Jake, and Nick, who helped deliver and pick up many, many campaign signs, and even find supporters who are willing to display a sign or two on my behalf in their yards. It really is a family affair. They have always encouraged me, and I would not be able to serve in this position without their support and their willingness to eat pizza for dinner on the first and third Mondays of each month. Thank you to the board members for electing me to serve as president this year. It will be a challenge to fill Mr. Eastwood's shoes, both literally and figuratively, but I shall do my best. His leadership and commitment to the students of Medina City Schools is exceptional. Thank you for setting the bar high. You make us all want to be better. Finally, I am excited for the direction our district is heading. We have been fiscally responsible for the past 5 years, resulting in placing a continuous substitute emergency levy on the ballot this May. Passage of that levy means no increase in taxes, and I will say it again, no increase in taxes. And passage will allow the implementation of the district's 5-year strategic plan. I look forward to serving my community, and I encourage anyone who has questions or comments to please contact Superintendent Sable, Treasurer Chambers, myself, or any of the board members. Our email addresses and phone numbers are located on the school's webpage, and we look forward to hearing from you. Go Bees. Before we move on to the consent agenda, I know that my family is probably anxious to get home and get ready for the first day back to school after a long break. So if anyone would like to leave at this time, please feel free. And thank you for coming. Okay, does anyone have any additions, removals, or modifications to the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
First item, excuse me, first item in the consent agenda is the resolution to set the time, date, and place of the regular meetings per Ohio Revised Code 3313.15. Be it resolved that in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 3313.15, the regularly scheduled monthly meetings for 2018 of the Medina City School District Board of Education be held at Medina High School Distance Learning Lab on the third Monday of every month, except where a holiday conflicts with such date. Then the meeting will be held on the third Tuesday of the month at Medina High School Distance Learning Lab. An executive session, which is closed to the public, may be held prior to or after the public meeting. All regular monthly work sessions, if deemed necessary, will begin at 6:30 p.m. and will be held at Medina High School Professional Development Center. All monthly work sessions, if deemed necessary, will be held on the first Monday of the month, except where a break conflicts with such date. Then the meeting will be held on the first Tuesday of the month at Medina High Professional Development Center. I do want to note that the first regular meeting of this year is shifted 1 week to January 22nd. And the reason for that is because the holiday has shifted our meetings for the month. Item number 2 is to set compensation for the board members per Ohio Revised Code 3313.12. It is recommended that the Board of Education set their compensation at the maximum level provided for the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Constitution. And I just wanted to mention here, so our community knows, is the maximum rate is somewhere around $100 per meeting. So we're not talking about an exorbitant amount of money. Actually, I would challenge our board members, you probably don't want to do this, but to actually figure out the hourly rate. And you probably see that you're finding cents rather than dollars in that column. So I thank you for your service to our community and our school district. Item number 3, bond approval per Ohio Revised Code 3313.25. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the bond presented by the treasurer as stated below. The treasurer shall present his bond in the amount of $500,000 for approval by the board. The approved bond shall be deposited with the president and a copy filed with the county auditor. Number 4 is another bond approval. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the bond presented by the Director of Business Affairs as stated below. The Director of Business Affairs shall present his bond in the amount of $25,000 for approval by the board. The approved bond shall be deposited with the president and a copy filed with the county auditor. Number 5 is standing resolutions. It is recommended that the following standing resolutions be approved as printed. The first is advances on tax settlements, authorization of the treasurer to secure advances from the auditor when funds are available and payable to the school district. Number 2 is investment of inactive funds, authorization for the treasurer to invest inactive funds at the most productive interest rate whenever inactive funds are available. 3 is board resolution authorizing superintendent to hire staff between board meetings. To authorize the superintendent during periods when this board is not in session to make offers of employment directly to candidates for either teaching or non-teaching positions on behalf of this board, subject to a subsequent vote of ratification by this board provided, however, that upon ratification by this board, the employment shall be deemed effective as of the date and time of the employee's acceptance of the superintendent's offer. Nothing in this resolution shall require the Board of Education to employ or continue to employ an individual who has not provided a criminal records check satisfactory to the board or who has not satisfied any other prerequisite to employment created by law or board policy. The authorization provided by this resolution shall remain in effect until withdrawn by formal action of this board. Number 3, board resolution authorizing superintendent to accept resignations. Number 1 is to authorize the superintendent on behalf of this board to accept resignations which have been submitted by employees during times when this board is not in session, subject to ratification by this board, provided, however, that upon ratification by this board, such resignation shall be deemed effective as of the date and time of the superintendent's acceptance. The authorization provided by this resolution shall remain in effect until withdrawn by formal action of this board. And to approve district purchasing agents, it is recommended that the board appoint the superintendent or designee and the treasurer as district purchasing agents. And I just want to mention with this, especially with the hiring components, that we will continue to make every effort to have personnel approved during board meetings. There are, of course, instances, especially when we're looking at the summer or that occasional mid-year hire where we need to get a teacher in place prior to a board meeting occurring, and that's the purpose of these resolutions. Number 6, public records training. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the resolution to appoint David Chambers, treasurer, as the Medina City Schools Board of Education's designee to attend public records training pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 149-.43 and Ohio Revised Code 109.43. And I do want to point out this is a change from last year. Mr. Chambers will be serving as our public records overseer. The past several years, Mr. Burkhardt, our business manager, our business director, has served in that role. Mileage rate reimbursement for 2018. It is recommended the board establish the district mileage rate reimbursement for 2018 to be the current IRS mileage rate on the date of travel. This is the same reimbursement rate that we have utilized in the district for many years. It is a fluctuating rate that changes when we receive notification from the federal government. Number 8 is employment of legal counsel. It is recommended that the Board of Education employ the following firms as our legal counsel to the board on an as-needed basis. I'm not going to read through all these, but I do want to point out that these are all the same legal representatives that we are using now. So this is no change from our current representatives. And number 9 is OSBA membership, which is the Ohio School Boards Association. It is suggested that the board renew membership in the Ohio School Boards Association for the 2018. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the items as read in the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item J is Superintendent Committee appointments. We do have one additional committee this year, and that is our Curriculum and Instruction. This is actually a committee that has existed and has been operating, and I think it makes total sense, considering the reason why we are here is for instruction, to formalize this committee with the board. So number one is curriculum and instruction. It is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Rebecca Parkhurst and Valerie Pavlik to serve as representatives of the board on the Medina City Schools Curriculum and Instruction Committee. The second committee is the Facilities Committee. It is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Douglas Eastwood and Robert Skidmore to serve as representatives of the board on the Medina City Schools Facilities Committee. And number three is Finance Committee. It is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Rebecca Parkhurst and Valerie Pavlik to serve as representatives of the board on the Medina City Schools Finance Committee. And the final committee is Policy Committee. It is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Robert Skidmore and Ronald Ross to serve as representatives on the board on the Medina City Schools Board Policy Committee. And number five, the final item within superintendent's committees is curriculum and instruction, finance, facilities, and policy committee meeting dates for 2018. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the regularly scheduled monthly meeting dates for the curriculum and instruction, finance, facilities, and policy committees for 2018. All of these dates will be posted on our website so that the public can access those dates as well.
I move that we accept these committees, the personnel, or the board members to those committees and the committee dates.
I will second that.
I would like to note for all board members to know that if for some reason, because life does happen, that you are unable to make it to one of these committees, please reach out and contact another board member so that we can make sure that we do have representation at the meetings. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
Ms. Parkhurst,
Aye.
Mr. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood,
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Thank you.
Our next two committees are City and Community Committee Representation. So these are committees where we're partnering with the city as well as the community in some of our joint initiatives. The first one is the Recreation Center Committee. It is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Christine Kwolek and John Burkhart to serve as the delegates representing the Medina City Schools at the Medina Community Recreation Center. Board member Ronald Ross will serve as the ex officio committee member. And the second committee is the Advisory Commission on Communication, Enhancement Support Services. And this is with our local access station. It is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Amy Busby and Ryan O'Cole to serve as representatives of the Medina City Schools on the Advisory Commission on Communication Enhancement Support Services. Board member Douglas Eastwood will serve as the ex officio committee member. And I do want to point out a change with these committees this year. I have asked the board if I could recommend administrators in our district to represent the district on these committees. These committees consist of city representatives, they consist of community representatives, and they consist of school representatives. In the past, our board members have diligently served as the representatives for the district. The reason why I've asked for this adjustment is so that our administrators in the district that are directly dealing with the city or with these organizations can be directly involved in the decisions to make the recommendations that would come up to City Council and to our Board of Education. It is still extremely important that we continue to have board participation in those committees and board input and feedback. And that's why, in addition to the employees, I am asking that a board member be assigned to each of the committees as well.
I move that we accept the City and Community Committee representation.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I would like to thank the board members for their flexibility with these committees. I know it was a change. I think it's a good change, and I think it's important to have the board members involved in this capacity. So thank you for your flexibility with that.
Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Mr. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore,
Aye.
and Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next is the recommendation of our Board of Education liaisons. We have 5 liaison areas. You can see that most of these reflect our strategic plan and the different areas that we explored over the course of last year with our strategic plan. These also correspond with representation through the Ohio School Boards Association. So these liaisons would serve as the OSBA representatives when it comes to statewide issues, committee meetings, and at the OSBA conference. The first is I also want to mention that the liaisons also typically at our board meetings have become the individuals that have been responsible for sharing out information in those areas, which is often communication either from OSBA or communication coming out of the committee work. Number 1 is Finance Liaison. It is recommended that the Board of Education select Rebecca Parkhurst to serve as the Finance Liaison of the board. Second is Community Relations Liaison. It is recommended that the Board of Education select Ronald Ross to serve as the Community Relations Liaison of the board. Number 3 is Buildings and Grounds. It is recommended that the Board of Education select Douglas Eastwood to serve as the Building and Grounds Liaison of the board. Number 4 is Academic, Student Achievement, and Technology. It is recommended that the Board of Education select Valerie Pavlik to serve as the Academic, Student Achievement, Technology Liaison of the board. And the last one is the Legislative Liaison, and it is recommended that the Board of Education select Robert Skidmore to serve as the Legislative Liaison of the board.
Would I move that we accept the board liaison positions as presented?
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions, or comments?
Mr. Eastwood,
Aye.
Mr. Ross,
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
And the final item on our organizational agenda is district committee representation. Excuse me. We have several committees that are not committees of the board, or the superintendent, but are committees that are in place in the district, either due to personnel contracts in the agreements, or just to help us function a little bit better. And I thought it would be nice to have our board members involved in those committees as well. So I'm asking that with our insurance committee, which is one of the contracted ones, that Valerie Pavlik serve in that role for our insurance committee. Medina City Schools Foundation, if Robert Skidmore would be able to serve on with our foundation. We also have administrators serving on that as well. I know one thing we are working on is the dates of those foundation meetings because currently they coincide with our board meetings. So they actually have one tonight, and obviously we're not able to be there. Next is Partnership Counsel. Partnership Counsel is basically a communications group That includes the city, ourselves, as well as various components of the business community. And it's to share out information on how things are going in the different aspects or components of the community. And the last one is the new committee that we developed last year, the Performing Arts Center Committee. And I asked that Douglas Eastwood be assigned to that committee. We have been working hard to establish some clear guidelines in terms of moving our Performing Arts Center forward. That doesn't only just mean organization and coordination, but it also means the future of our arts programs and trying to better utilize the facility that we have available to us. Any questions or comments about my discussion items?
This last one we do not need to vote on, I believe, correct? But is everyone okay with their assignments? And I just wanted to reiterate again for these as well as for the city community representation, since there is only one board member assigned for these, it is even more important that if you're unable to make it, just reach out to another board member and see if someone can attend in your place. Thank you. Okay, that is the end of our organizational meeting. We will adjourn for a brief moment and then start back up with the... Oh, I need a motion first. I apologize.
Can I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting?
Second.
Mr. Eastwood,
Aye.
Mr. Ross,
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay.